Welcome back to another video. Today I'll be reacting to the TNA's exclusive two-part interviews with Ryan Sparks, the Bradford City CEO. So if you have read it, let me know what your thoughts on it are, and throughout your things and anything we discuss, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. If you do like the video, please do, it massively helps and it's appreciated, and subscribe if you're new as well. I don't know if Shaz is still watching, but I've took it on board, about the mic, and I've hopefully it's improved. Now I've brought this fluffy thing on the end of my mic. Now I did have one, and the audio quality was better than what it was. I went back and listened to that, but I did lose my fluffy thing, this fluffy thing. So I found this spare. But if it still ain't good enough, let me know, because I'll then look into it further than trying to find a fluffy thing on the end of it. But it should be slightly improved. But with anything like that, if you've got any criticisms, anything that I can improve on, I will look at it and try and improve it. And so the first question was, what is the exact position with Jake Young? Is a striker coming in off the left? No, seriously, he did reply, Ryan Sparks, with, after starting last season with a few good goals for us, it then became clear Jake wasn't going to be part of the previous manager's plans. You can say Mark Hughes. It was disappointing, as with any player we sign, we want them to succeed. However, team selection is always down to the manager. I mean, that's instantly a blame on Mark Hughes to why why Jake Young hasn't been involved at City, which we all knew about anyway. I can't remember how it came about, but we all sort of figured that one out on social media. Moving into this summer, it became once again clear that Jake wasn't going to be in the previous manager's plans. It's like an elephant in the room. You can't mention Mark Hughes. You're in a room with your uncle, who's, I don't know, let's say an alcoholic or something. You can't mention the word beer. There's no beer. We're all on blue. So something like that. Anyway, I'm not saying I've experienced that. I'm just saying, but maybe you have. There's always something you can't mention around people, isn't there? You can't mention Mark Hughes' name, because that happened with Eric Adams, didn't it? And now he's having a go at Ryan Sparks. Maybe that might go on with Mark Hughes. We wanted to help Jake. There wasn't a great deal of interest in his services in League 2 after he ended a season on loan at Barrow. It then continues to read, I've got a good relationship with Michael Flynn, and New Swindon were looking for a striker. So Michael Flynn probably will be the next Bradford City manager after he sacked Alexander in May. Michael gave Jake an opportunity, and he took it with both hands. The loan deal wasn't particularly financially beneficial for us, but it was a good opportunity for Jake, and our priority was to support him. Graeme Alexander was very keen to recall Jake from his loan after being named our manager, and we as a club were very supportive of that. And of course, Alexander keeps coming out saying, I can play him if I want to. I'm not being told that I can't, or in the wool over our eyes. I think we all know that they've been talking, and obviously Sparks wants to hold on to Young as long as possible. He wants to try and get the most out of that asset, and Jake Young is a very valuable asset this summer, and we haven't had many valuable assets, and that's that I had a comment and it said, Gent has brought profitable players, which we haven't had under previous recruitment managers, and and I thought then, we have brought that, because we've had your Robinsons, your Elliots, rubbish loan deals, players who you couldn't wait to get rid of because they were just so poor and you couldn't get rid of them. Whereas even Osadebe we've got a fee for, Oliver we've got a fee for. You've got your Allardyce, your Chapmans, who if you wanted to sell their assets, you can get money for them players. Andy Cook, obviously last season, getting 30 goals. Stubbs, you would be able to get a fee for, and a very good player on his day. Even your Matty Platts, who are steady players who people might look to pay a fee for. And you've had your Harry Lewis and your Youngs, who are both reportedly being involved in big sell-ons, and that's something that we've needed, and we've got that. But the problem is, when you do look at that, you look at how many we've got wrong, and that's the problem. But I've been critical on Gent recently, but I do think if you just take away the current situation and you look at it in a more broader way of thinking, with a scouting recruitment system that we've got now, to comparing it to the previous players we've been bringing into a club and scouting, it has been improved, but it's still not to the level where we need to be and where we want to be. There will potentially be players coming in because we want a little bit more in certain areas, which is obviously important to get a striker in, because Verdane Oliver's gone. I think left wing back's an area where I want a bit more in that area, with Rideout not being adequate for me to push for League 2 playoff push or even to get out of this league. Richards has been a bit inconsistent at times, so that's an area. I did want a number 8, but if we're gonna, depends what system we play. What do you say to suggestions that signing right is a PR stunt for the fans? We sign players we feel will have a positive impact on our football club. It's never for public popularity, it's to win matches. If they're successful, popularity usually follows. Tariq is really excited to be back at Valley Parade. I hadn't seen him since last year, but his smile was ear to ear, basically saying, is it Alexander signing, yes or no? And he said, well, we sign players we feel have a positive impact on our football club. It's never for public popularity. But how much of a say did Alexander have in it? Because obviously, when you sign a player who was Hughes' signing, who did well under Hughes, now Hughes in here, you're giving it to Alexander. How much of a say did he have in it? How much has he seen Tariq Wright play? They're all interesting things you'd sort of want to know, which he perhaps avoided, but it's not like a flat question of that, is it? And I'm sure you only get a certain amount of questions. And then the second part of the interview does move on to a more of a look on the season, which is the first question. It's been a disappointing league campaign. What would you put that down to? Pre-season was a tad underwhelming. It's not always about results, but it's usually a decent indicator, and the indications weren't fantastic. Right. There appeared to be some kind of hangover from last season. In the past, we've maybe had a large turnover of players, which isn't ideal, but equally, when you've come so close to something, and there is a lot of pain attached to that for players who still make up the bulk of your squad, that can potentially make things difficult. Obviously, we decided after a quarter of the season to go in a different direction with the management. Results were nowhere near acceptable for the club and what we'd spent on the squad, the players we'd brought in and the work we'd done. Well, maybe, if you think about it, you said we want a leaner and meaner squad. You bring in around 20 players again, which isn't fresh, ain't keeping the same squad that were there. Then maybe that's brought around a bit more of a diverse feel in the dressing room. Maybe it's again starting from scratch for Mark Hughes, and maybe that's why you had a shaky pre-season again, because it was about getting the team bonding again and to try and start from scratch. We didn't recruit well enough for the plans that Mark Hughes had, and I've been thinking about this more. I won't say we failed Mark Hughes, because I think there's a lot that Mark Hughes did wrong, a lot of decisions that he didn't make that he should have, and he got a lot wrong. Because I do think he was slightly let down. We wanted to play out from the back, and we'd never recruited a defensive midfielder who could come and take the ball back for, spread play, be this fantastic passer, an Elliot Watt, let's be honest, with a bit more aggression to him, but an Elliot Watt. And Elliot Watt went, we couldn't convince him to stay. We brought in Smallwood, who he can't do what Elliot Watt can, but he can't do what a defensive midfielder needs to do for a Mark Hughes system. He's then also got next to Smallwood, Alex Gilead, who runs and runs and runs, and I love that about him. But he's not a number 8 in a Mark Hughes system. He can't play that way. He isn't going to be doing what a number 8 needs to do. He ain't a creative player. He isn't going to be a playmaker. He isn't going to contribute goals. He isn't going to be breaking into a box. He's not going to be that player. The back line this season is nowhere near good enough to be playing out from the back. I mean, Tompkinson was, and he didn't pick him, to be fair. But he also came in after the deadline day. So he never really got a pre-season to actually look at him. He got Ash Taylor to do that, and he can't play out from the back. Matty Platt could never play out from the back. But you have to look at Hughes and say, well, also last season you had Odesina who could do that better than him. So that's why I do feel like you've got to look at the recruitment and say it wasn't right with the players we brought in. But then Mark Hughes wasn't picking players who could improve that. We found ourselves 19th in the table, which we cannot ever be. We have been many times, haven't we? Under your ownership, and not ownership, under your regime. We have been there far too many times, so we can always be there and not be too surprised. So we made the change. I thought Kevin McDonald did a really good job in turning us around a little bit. He got us some good performances and put some pride back into the shirt. Kevin was very honest with me, and he said I didn't want it to be a long-term thing. He said that to everyone. I think what you did was you put a baby in front of the whole room on Christmas Day, and it started crying. It didn't like the attention. Kevin McDonald, all right, for a short while, it was loving it. Everyone's, kissing him and, going, oh, isn't it brilliant? And then after a while, it gets a bit all too samey, and it gets a bit more, actually, this is going on a bit too long. I'm not ready for this. And obviously he wasn't. And that became because we didn't hire a manager quick enough, because Cowley turned us down, Carl Robinson turned us down, and that's all we know. David Artell, I'm pretty sure, also turned us down. In my time, it's been a mixture of things. We know that. People inside the club, people who we admired for different reasons, and then, of course, more recently, a Premier League manager. Mark Hughes did a good job. He really turned the football club around and gave a lot of people a sense of pride and positivity about Bradford City. I agree. I agree. I do think from where we were under Adams, it was a dark place. It was gloomy. We couldn't see a way out, and he put a big, he just stood on the whole football club, and we were squashed, and we didn't know how to pick ourselves back up. But then 9 o'clock that morning, on the 24th of February, I think it was, 25th of February, Mark Hughes is announced, and suddenly there's this big weight on our shoulders of anticipation and excitement, and we're back, and season tickets, let's go, next season we're going to go up, we've got this big name. And we did have a sense of pride, and there were more positivity, and he did do a good job. We got into playoffs for the first time in League 2, and then we had a crazy summer of stupidity, and that's what cost him his job. I enjoyed working with him, but I just felt towards the end of his employment that we'd lost our way a little bit, and we needed to get the season back on track. I think we're now 15th. That's all I'm going to say. What difference have you seen under Graeme Alexander? This is quite a bit longer. When Graeme came in, I felt it might get worse before it got better. Well, that's great optimism in your new manager, innit? What great confidence you're giving in him. I knew there'd be changes to our shape and the way we play to better suit some of the players we've got. So why did you think it would get worse if we got better then? If you're thinking that he's going to change to suit the players, that's why you hired him, then why do you think it's going to get worse? There's been plenty of energy and lots of push in the final third, but not enough end product. That's cost us, and the players know that as well as Graeme. I mean, does he have to say that? Does he have to criticise the top end of the pitch for not converting the chances? And then does he have to put pressure on Graeme Alexander for saying he knows that? Sort of saying, well, he should be changing that. I don't know if he needed to say out about that, to be honest with you, but anyway, he did. We are working on that, and that is why we brought in Tariq Wright and recalled Jake Young, as though Jake Young's a new signing. I think our performances have been much better under Graeme. Football moves fast, and it was only a few weeks ago we were talking about the best winning run in decades. Fair enough. Now we're mid-table and losing our grip on the top 7, and need to address that very quickly. We've got some really big games coming up in the next couple of weeks, games that we need to win to keep our campaign within reach of what we wanted to achieve at the start of the season. It's difficult to put that entirely on Graeme. Well, you shouldn't be putting it entirely on Graeme, to be honest. He's only lost, is it 4 games? I ultimately feel the start to the season has cost us. Probably has, to be honest. I mean, like I say, he's only lost 4 league games. I won't put it on Graeme Alexander at all. It almost feels as though we're expected to come. I mean, we are expected to come into playoffs because that is accepting mediocrity. But I'm almost getting a feeling that if we don't finish in the playoffs this season, Graeme Alexander will be sacked. I don't know. I'm getting that feeling. I don't feel comfortable with that, and I don't feel like that should happen at all. Credit to Graeme, who has come. First time he's given any sort of credit to Graeme, to be fair, who has come in and got us playing a brand of football that I think is enjoyable to watch. I mean, I don't know where I stand, but do let me know your thoughts on that in the comments down below, because it is an interesting topic. It's one that's causing a bit of debate and a bit of stir at the minute. Is it enjoyable? Because I'm not opposed to direct football, and I think the pressing is enjoyable, putting teams under pressure on the back foot by getting at them and not giving them time on the ball. And obviously we're getting high turnovers, and with Jamie Walker, that is part of the reason why we have come unstuck recently. Our press is easier to bypass, especially against Crawley. That happened time and time again, and it happened against Morecambe as well. That's why they scored 2. We've been leakier because our midfield is easy to bypass without Jamie Walker getting those high turnovers. That is the big difference, and that's been enjoyable. But then a lot of the frustration with the fan base, and maybe it's for you, so do let me know what your thoughts are, because it is very debatable. The direct style of play, now you see in your plats, your defenders getting the ball lower than the halfway line and us hoofing it towards Cook and Oliver, who come on in the in the 70th minute mark trying to create something, and they never do, because it's just long ball and long ball and long ball, and it's going nowhere, and it's just sticking. It's like eating Weetabix, it's just bland, and it can be frustrating. But I'm not against direct play. I think any style of football is entertaining as long as you're winning, and direct is quite entertaining, of course, because it's counter-attacking, it's getting the ball and playing in the opposition's half, and that's where you get goals, and that's where you can win matches. Would it still be a good season for you if City reach Wembley but don't get promoted? That's an interesting one. Would it be for you as well? Let me know in the comments down below. I don't try and sit back and think whether that would be success or failure. You've got to review that at the end of the season when you put everything on the table. I want to look back then and see how results and performances have been under Graeme Alexander rather than what has happened at the start of the season. Again, that makes me wonder if at the end of the season, if we don't get promoted or don't finish in the playoffs, we'll look at Alexander and say, we don't accept mediocrity, Graeme. We're looking at bringing in Michael Flynn. I wonder if that's something that could happen, and that makes me just so flat, and I'm losing interest now. But if we then go and bring in another new project manager, another manager who wants to part from the back and completely change the style again, go for another summer recruitment, I think a lot of people would say that's enough. I can't go through that anymore. I can't go through a new manager, a new project, new beginnings, coming out, take me home, and it would be take me home, take me home, because I can't do it anymore. This season, to just look at it, it's just been a mess. It's like when you get a new puppy, it's just a mess. So you know what type of mess I'm on about, and that's how you describe the season. So it's got to work, and if he considers doing it at the end of the season, I don't think there'd be a way back for him, and then it would all start then. And if we do have a new manager, I don't think many would give him a chance. I think it'd then be like, we can't take this anymore, and it's not enjoyable to come and watch City anymore. I don't see the future of City, so let's start protesting. We need to make a change. Whereas still, I think there's a large majority of fans who still enjoy going to City, still love the feeling of it, and I do. It would pain me to do protests and have to watch protests or be a part of it, because it's not Bradford City and it's not where I want us to go. Unfortunately, we can't replay the first couple of months. If we did, I think we'd be in a much higher position. Well, if you replayed it, the same outcome would happen. That's why we keep sacking managers and the same outcome happens, because I think if he thinks that if you just... doing the same thing is the definition of his insanity. And it is insanity, because he's just said it there. He thinks if we replay the matches, we'll win. No, we won't. I've always wanted to succeed in the FL Trophy during my time as CEO. It's a winnable cup, and we don't have too many in the cabinet. Well, if you've always wanted to be successful in that trophy, which I don't doubt it has, because it brings in great income. I think people have calculated it's around 100k we've gained from the competition. But so why have we failed in it so much? Why have we always struggled to get past the group stage, if that's an area you've always wanted to focus in? Did the managers not appreciate how much of a difficult cup it is and how much you wanted to win? I don't know. Success in cup campaign, or is he just saying that now because we're at the stage where people are talking about winning it and it just suits the agenda to talk about I've always wanted to win it? and then people start to focus on it more and see it as a big thing, you know, because you can really use it to your advantage then. Whereas at the start of the season, if you talk about wanting to win it, then you're out the group stage, you look a bit of a clown. Any thoughts on the Ryan Sparks two-part interview with Simon Parker from the TNA? Let me know your thoughts on everything we've discussed. Do you think we can win the AFL Trophy? Would you want to? Do you think Graeme Alexander's football is entertaining, or is it dull and boring? And would you consider sacking him at the end of the season if we don't make the playoffs? Because I think that's something that Ryan Sparks would definitely consider doing. Again, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Like the video if you did, subscribe if you're new. Have a good one.